Hello, Facebook world. My name is Margie, and I am an engineer for reserve studies and also a life coach. So, I've been meditating quite a bit recently, meditating more so on what type of content my friends on Facebook, as well as my friends on LinkedIn and YouTube, what might my friends need. And my heart gave me the answer that a lot of people, myself included, are learning about surrendering. So if you're, a typical corporate person or somebody that's been raised in an environment where it's just very structured, where, first you go to school, you go to college to get a degree to make a certain amount of money. A lot of people don't realize that they have a lot of social conditioning and a lot of conditioning from family, parents, friends, and things like that. So I felt inclined to post a video about how to fully surrender. So what surrendering means to me is taking the path of least resistance. So that doesn't mean just sitting on the couch all day and eating candy, although that is amazing once in a while, but not all day, every day. So for me, a little bit of my background, I grew up in an amazing household, a great family, fully supported me. I think I conditioned myself a lot more than my parents ever did. They just supported any goals that I had. My father raised me to be strong, independent. No matter what you do, you're going to make it. You're tall, you're a woman, you're intelligent. In the business world, people will respect you. So what I feel like that ended up doing to me is, I was very driven from an early age, so I always had the idea of charging after my goals, fiercely going after them, which is a very masculine energy. And if you don't know, men and women have feminine energy on the left side and masculine energy on the right. In the video, it's reverse. But fully surrendering, especially during this time, means taking a path of least resistance. So I know a lot of people are going through job changes. A lot of people are having relationship issues. Coaching people, and a lot of people that I've been in touch with in the corporate world, they are finding that after 30 years, they're getting fired. 40-year marriage is now ending. What I believe is happening is a huge planetary awakening. I mean, it's not just your area. When I talked to my friends in Costa Rica, they weren't allowed to go surfing. It's closed down there too. That's when I knew that, this thing is worldwide, as you guys know. And a lot of people, they're at home. Now, of course, things are opening up, but a lot of people are still in a position, or maybe they were in the past and things are kind of picking up. But even if your job is picking up, you might find yourself being at home a lot more. So fully surrendering is that uncomfortable feeling, or it's an indicator that you need to surrender when you start feeling uncomfortable in your own skin. And what surrendering looks like is when you sit with yourself and you say, what is this about? What's this anxiety about? Why do I feel uncomfortable? Why am I irritable? Why am I trying to force a job that's not working? Why am I forcing a relationship that maybe is at the end? When you don't surrender to things, it's the opposite of surrendering is forcing. Whether you're forcing a career, whether you shouldn't be at a job anymore and you're saying, well, I'll do this, I'll do that, just keep me. If you have to beg for a job or for someone's attention or for anything in life, that's an indicator that it's not the path of least resistance. So in my own story, I ended up getting a great engineering job and I was making a good amount of money. And I ended up buying a house that was way too big because ultimately I found the root cause of it, coaching other people. I realized that you can only take people as deeply as you've taken yourself. So I bought the big house. I had the huge job, top producer of a worldwide company. And I needed those things and I needed that validation because I wasn't finding the love within myself. It's not to say that if you love yourself, you need to go and be a homeless person on the side of the street, but you should really look at what your heart is desiring. I probably could have taken a path of less resistance, which would have been a smaller house that would have been a lot easier for me to have instead of overextending myself. A beautiful lesson was learned there and I appreciate it, but And also, when I bought a large house, I thought, well, you know what? I have a big house. Now I'll attract the right people. The right guy will love me, because who wouldn't love someone living in this house? And it wasn't the core issue. The core issue was that I needed to find the love for myself. I didn't need the validation through the job. That was extremely stressful. And if you guys have watched any of my other videos, the reason I got rid of that house was because my older son is extremely intuitive, and he, whenever I didn't have my boys, I'd usually be working 20 hours a day. And then when I had my kids, it was all about my kids. So I was only working about 4 hours a day just to make sure that I spent my time with them. And my older son, he held my hand and he goes, Mom, I want you to answer this question from your heart and not from your head. He goes, is the house killing you? And it was at that moment that I realized that my son is picking up on energy that's not spoken. He was picking up on how much I was stressing out to get the bonuses, to pay for the big house that we didn't need. It was 3,200 square feet, 4-bed, 5-bath, 2-story on the beach. It was too much. And of course, like, that's right for some people, maybe people in partnerships, or maybe someone that was, and maybe even me, in a different point in my life, but I wasn't there yet. For me, it was about getting the validation from having the house and from having the job. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't have the nice things, but again, it's about taking the path of least resistance. So what I recommend people do during this time is think to yourself, like, make a list. I'm such a list maker. Even when I worked in an office, right now I work at home, but when I worked in an office, I would have Post-its everywhere. I would have Post-its on top of Post-its, layered with Post-its. And the biggest thing you can do right now, make a list. What is stressing you out? What questions do you not have answers to? What things are unknown right now? If it's job stability, if it's a relationship status, think to yourself, is this person right? Is this person stressful? Is it me needing this job, or is it me needing the validation of having this job by having these things so people will give me approval? I really encourage everybody right now to ask themselves, how can they fully surrender? And I promise you, when you quiet the noise from society, when you quiet your programming of what your standards are, standards in terms of, like, well, I need this house in this neighborhood to let people know that I've made it, or I need this job so that I can have the title of CEO. Like, what is it that you really need in life? And when you think about what you're trying to physically attain, many times it goes back to the feeling that you want from attaining those things. For example, I want a great job, but why? I want that great job because I want to have financial freedom. Okay, now why do you want the financial freedom? I want the freedom so that I can be relaxed when I have my family, and I want more family time, I want more quality. And basically all of that boils down to having quality relationships, feeling free. And then if you reverse engineer it, it's like, well, I can't be free if I overextend myself and buy the biggest house on the block. And I can't be free if I'm working a stressful job, or if my wife or husband has to work 2 jobs in order to make that mortgage work. So I encourage you guys, I'm not saying sell everything, get rid of it all, I'm not saying that at all, but really make a list. What is stressing me out? What do I feel is my biggest stressor? How do I think I can resolve that stressor? What other paths can I take? And you'll be surprised to see. Maybe you are with someone that hasn't been pushing you to be your best, or maybe you just need to communicate to them about what you need. It's crazy. I've worked for some huge companies, and the biggest breakdown was just communication. It blew my mind. Honestly, people, I always tell my kids now, because I never did this myself, and I always say, how do you feel right now, and what is it that you want? A lot of times if people just communicate those simple things, they'll find that so many positive things can come out of that. If Logan, my little one, is frustrated, many times it's just he can't vocalize what he's thinking or feeling. So I'll say, Logan, how do you feel? I'm angry, I'm upset, what do you want? I don't want to go to the beach. Well, why? Because I'm actually really tired. But I would have thought he's just being naughty and resisting what I want us to do. But when you actually communicate and you have open lines of communication with your loved ones, with coworkers, with your friends, then you'll find many times you guys are able to come to a solution. And we have nothing but time right now, a lot of us. Unless you're essential, then you might be working double, triple time. And just take the time to write down what's stressing you out and why do you feel like you need these things. And when you fully surrender, it's when you sit down and it's quiet. There's no YouTube on, the TV isn't on, you're not watching the news. Please turn off the news. Don't get me into that. But just really sit with yourself and say, where do I need to surrender? And it's crazy. People think it's woo-woo. You have an inner voice, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in intuition, no matter what you believe in, if you actually take the time to ask yourself, what do I need right now to be happy? You might find that you'll find a different job opportunity that's heart-centered with people that you can have better communication with. Or you might find that maybe you're not communicating properly with the people that you need to communicate with. If you have a boss and you're frustrated with him, just say, hey, you know what? I need a better description of my role. I need to know what you expect from me. I need to know what you need in order to feel happy about my performance. It really is that simple. And it's crazy, but we live in a society where we think people can read our minds, and I do think some of that is possible, but that's once we're at a different level of awareness, and a lot of people are not at that level, and I don't really think I'm there yet either. I'm getting there, and I'm working towards that. But good communication and fully surrendering to yourself. Ask yourself, what do you need to do right now? How can you sit and listen to yourself without forcing the relationship, without forcing the job, without forcing the stress that comes from a lack of communication? So I encourage you guys to take this time to grow and expand, because I promise you, people are getting put into a lot of uncomfortable situations because their heart and their soul wants them to expand. So when you're uncomfortable, it's because you're not in a conducive environment where you're able to be free to be the person that you truly are. So I encourage you during this time to surrender, sit with yourself, write down the things that make you uncomfortable, and ask yourself how to get the answers with that. And if you need help, I am a life coach. I have completely rearranged my life. I've found a lot of my triggers. I realized the reason why I had those triggers, and I was able to energetically release them, therefore creating a totally different life for myself, a life where I'm filled with joy, I have financial freedom, I'm able to have lots of time with my kids without the stress. And a lot of people think by surrendering or moving into a smaller house that it's going to suck. I promise you, if you've overextended yourself, especially financially, think about the freedom of having a nice house that is what you need in a good, safe neighborhood, but having freedom to take trips and do other things like that. I mean, it might be hard for your ego to deal with initially, but I promise there is so much joy that comes from making life a lot more simple. So I wish you guys the best, and if you need me, my contact information will be at the bottom. I'll be posting this on YouTube, and I wish you guys the best. I love you all.